What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Existential Stoic podcast. Do you ever feel sorry for yourself? Do you ever feel down? Maybe you think, I don't know, things just aren't working out for you. Other people are to blame. The world's not fair, all that stuff. Well, today we're going to talk about how to stop feeling sorry for yourself. I'm Danny, here, my buddy Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I think we all experience. Have you had any recent experiences with feeling
Oh
sorry
my
for yourself?
gosh. Dude, this past week I was feeling so sorry for myself. I was like, wow, all the way home. And and here I am like literally pursuing the career of my dreams. In like
Eh.
literally living the life that I have dreamed about for years. And I'm like, woe is me. My life sucks. Wah. And
Meh.
so I'm in the
Yeah.
middle of doing this stuff, and I'm like, man, I feel so sorry for myself. And I'm like, that would be a great episode idea. Why don't we do that?
It's funny too. It's funny that you can your brain's a tricky thing too, because even when you're doing everything you want, you'll find yourself catch yourself. Like I catch myself sometimes feeling sorry for myself because I didn't start it earlier. I didn't start doing this sooner. And it's like, well, I am doing it now. So yeah, it's nothing I can do about that. But at least I'm doing it now. And it's kind of funny how even when we have everything we want, we'll interpret it a certain way or find a way to make it not right or to make ourselves feel bad about it or I don't, it's a weird thing that we do. I wonder why we do it.
Yeah.
Is it like motivation? Because that doesn't seem to be helpful.
No. It's I think it is a really tough question. I don't know the answer to it because
Yeah.
when I was in the thick of it, it felt like I couldn't get out. And not only that, it
Yeah.
felt like it was going to go on forever. And I think a lot of it was actually due to me just being tired and me have gone out drinking the night before, not getting good sleep. And
Oh,
like,
dude, that'll do it. Yeah.
but like there were so many factors that could have contributed to it. And so it may have been a big nothing, but at the same time, like in the thick of it, it was like there was no way out. It was just like, yeah, so I just felt really
Yeah,
sorry
that's
for
it.
myself and yeah.
Yeah, that's what sucks the most though, is once it happens, you're in it and it's just terrible. And I get the same way too. And and you're right, I think being tired, a little hungover or something, those are easy, you know, things that trigger it, I think, if you want to think of it that way, I guess. But it's I can never, even when it does happen and I catch it, it still takes time to get out of it. And then on top of that, I'm still confused as to why, why it happens so often. You get tired and you're maybe it's you feel tired too, and you're like, I don't have the energy to do all this stuff. I can't possibly do it right now, but I still have other days and other time. But you get so caught up in the moment. It's very weird.
Dude, and I have like I get tired and simultaneously I can't sleep. So like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
when I have a very difficult time sleeping outside of the normal hours that I sleep. So like I'll be exhausted. Like literally I feel standing up or sitting down that I could just nod off like that, but I'll try and go to sleep and I'll just be staring up at the ceiling like, okay, what now? So it's like it's a tricky situation.
Yeah, usually, yeah, it's weird. Usually I can fall asleep pretty quickly, but sometimes I do run into that problem. If it takes too long, then I'm up here outside. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And I feel like we all feel sorry for ourselves for so many damn reasons. It doesn't help too that we're constantly bombarded with information about how other people are doing that nobody ever had to experience before in the past. I was
Oh,
thinking about that the other
yeah.
day. You know, could you imagine they were they were talking, I was listening to something, they were talking about marriage and rates of marriage, and they're talking about how in the past not as many people got married as you thought because they actually didn't have that many partners. You lived in a town, so it just depended on where you lived. You might be, whether or not it was possible. And they said there's actually pretty high rates of single people being single. But I was thinking about that, and I was like, it's kind of funny because you're kind of bound by whatever circumstances you found yourself in that community. You didn't have much. You might have known of I don't know, whatever. Maybe that there was a king or something. But other than that, there was just that was it. So you compared yourself to people around you that were in relatively the same position. Now it's you're bombarded with all this stuff about people just at the very top, and it's I think that just makes it very hard to and reconcile with our lives.
And you're not so like okay, yeah, great point. So like my grandmother, I remember she always used to like have a picture of the Pope, you know? And it was like she wasn't on the Pope's Twitter feed every day. She wasn't on TikTok watching the Pope do all these dances and everything like that.
Mhm.
She like literally had a picture of the Pope. And it was from,
Yeah.
20 years ago or something like that. So it
Probably the
is
old Pope.
yeah, it is a lot more in your face than I think how things are nowadays. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
makes it difficult. Like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So the like how to stop feeling sorry for yourself. I one thing that I watched that was very helpful was it was this story told about the Buddha. And like a farmer came to the Buddha and the farmer he said, like people tell me you're an enlightened being, so hopefully you can help me with my problems. He's like, I'm a farmer and I really love farming, but sometimes it doesn't rain enough and the crops die. And sometimes it rains too much and we don't get as many crops as we were supposed to have. And he's like, and I have a wife and I love her, but sometimes she nags me and sometimes she doesn't pay enough attention to me. And I have these great
Bitch.
kids. I know, right? And he's like, and I have these great kids, but like sometimes they don't listen to me. And then like other times they don't do what I tell them. And he's like, so I have all these problems and I'm coming to you because you're an enlightened master. Like, can you help me solve my problems? And the Buddha's like, no, sorry, I can't help you. And at this point, watching this thing, I'm like, what the heck? How could he not? I mean, he's the Buddha. How could he not help him? And so the Buddha says, everybody has 83 problems. All I can do is prevent you from having an 84th problem. And the farmer's like, an 84th problem? And the Buddha's like, yeah, the 84th problem is thinking that you can live life without problems. So, and I was just like, wow, like that's what I've been trying to do this whole past week is trying to live life without problems. Like I'm feeling so sorry for myself because I have problems. Like, okay, for instance, like all this programming stuff that I'm doing, it causes a lot of problems. Like I get stuck, I get frustrated, I get these
Yeah,
errors.
oh yeah, it does.
I'm not being
It's
taught methods
overwhelming
that
at
I
times.
enjoy. Yeah, so like nonstop problems. And I'm complaining about these problems that I have that literally I have created myself because I'm chosen to go down this path. But it's like when I heard that, I was like, oh, like life has 83 problems. So like it's just kind of learning to accept the problems and not expecting to live a life without problems.
And expecting them, I think, too. But it's funny though, I think that's like when you were saying that too, it's funny that like all of us, I think, that's what we imagine. We imagine like those goals in the future as getting to a point without problems. That's what I think everybody does. When they say like, like, oh, when I get that job, I'll be happier. When I make this much, they really mean like I won't have problems. Really, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what it is, right? We imagine the state or this time where we'll be in the future with no issues. And it's like that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we still think it. It is weird. And it's funny that we do think that way. It's a good point because I think that's learning to just live with them and to just recognize that it's a part of life. You can't
Yeah.
get around it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So there was another part. You ever heard that saying that like I felt sorry because I had holes in my shoes until I ran into the man who had no feet?
No.
Oh, okay.
I never heard that.
Well, so
No.
there's like a saying. It's like I felt bad for myself because I had holes in my shoes until I ran into the man with no feet.
Yeah.
And so like I was trying to do that when I was feeling sorry for myself. I was like, oh, but I have a house to live in and I have food that I can eat and I have a working body and arms and legs. And I was trying to do all these stuff. And I was like, but damn it, it's not working. I still feel shitty.
That's still not enough, damn it. Yeah. It's like maybe it'd be more effective to instead of like abstractly comparing yourself to others in worse positions. Because like yeah, I guess it can always be worse. Maybe thinking about like, why now is better than before in your life, that might be more effective. Like why it's good that you have these problems instead of negative.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, it's frustrating to get that it's overwhelming. It's frustrating that you get stuck a lot. And it's frustrating that, maybe like teachers are not the best in this case or whatever, but like at the same time, at least you're in a position in your life where you can have those problems as
Hmm.
opposed to not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. And then there's this
It's
other thought that came up. So like I'm reading this book called Loving What Is, and I told you about this last week. Really good one,
yeah.
just about questioning your thoughts. And so I have this thought that comes up, and it's like a really debilitating thought. And it's kind of like remember when I had the panic attack type thing in November? I was telling you
Yeah,
about that.
yeah,
Like this was literally the thought that came up associated with this panic attack. It's that like I'm not going to be able to handle something in my future. Like the thought
yeah.
comes up like I'm not going to be able to handle something in my future, and then I get like really scared and contracted and just like just feel sorry for myself. So and like when you look at it rationally, do I know that's true? That's true? No. Like what's what's the track record? I'm 40 years old. I've handled everything in my life so far. Right now, I'm handling whatever's happening right now. So like, why on earth would all of a sudden I not be able to handle something in the future? But like anytime I have that thought, it's almost like crippling. And so learning to see that thought for what it is and just to recognize that it's not actually true. It's just a thought. But sometimes I get that thought and I have this illusion that the thought is true in the future that I just won't be able to handle it.
Well, it's just fear too, you know? And it's funny too because it's like it's such a they're always so like it's always such like abstract fears too. Like you won't be able to handle something. Well, like even if you couldn't, well, there's probably a different way to handle it then. Like you go a different way to solve, you know, it's like that's as if a problem exists that you just could not get. There was insurmountable, like, which
Uh,
makes no sense. And it's funny. I don't, it's so weird too that we do all of this to ourselves. Like I can never figure this out. It's like you know it would be better not doing it. Like it would be so much better not to be stressed, not to get depressed, not to be unhappy, not to, you know, but like, and you know that it's like 99% of the time I know I'm causing it. So it's like, why doesn't it just stop? It's so weird. And I
mm,
think a lot of it is future looking. Like a lot of it is like worrying about the future, worrying about like, you know, what if this doesn't work out? Like, what if
yeah,
I'm not good enough? What if, you know, this happens or that happens? And it's like, but it hasn't happened yet. So why am I stressed about it? Like I'll know when I get there, I guess. Like,
yeah, yeah. Also, like I think some of it is somewhat habitual. Like we kind of grow up developing habits of worry. And so learning to recognize when
mm,
we're worrying and replace those thoughts. Uh, because yeah,
our
definitely.
patterns of where I'm in too. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know what? I trying to recognize the circumstances in which the feelings generally come up has been helpful for me. Like, you know, we were talking about earlier, like being tired, you know, for instance, or like, you know, recognizing when it's like other things that aren't really related, but probably causing it, like where you're just exhausted or you're sick or something, and that's really why, you know, you can't meet your expectations. Also, too, I think getting your expectations to a realistic level is also really important because I think a lot of us do. Like, I know I struggle with that. You know, like when you're younger, these expectations placed on you that like are really high, but maybe like also misdirected. You
Hmm.
know, and then it's like you always have that burden of like, are you living up to whatever the hell that means or is?
Dude,
That's a
that,
hard one.
oh my gosh, that one is like the $1 million question. Because it's like, it's this whole thing of like, could I be an Elon Musk? Maybe I will if I just try harder. And it's like, whoa, maybe I'm just supposed to be exactly how I am right now. And but that yeah, that nagging question in the background, like, oh, if I just tried a little bit harder, like if I, if I never gave up and if I just hmm I know
I
exactly what
hate
you're
that
talking
too.
about.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, you theoretically you could dedicate all of your time to one thing, but it's like, you know, at the same time, do I really want to do that?
I mean, and who
You
knows,
know?
like, we all look at we'll just use the example of Elon Musk for whatever. We all look at him as like, he's doing amazing things with his life. He's done PayPal and Tesla and SpaceX. And, what if he gets to his deathbed and he's like, "Ah, I wasted all my time on this." Like,
Yeah.
what if he discovers on his deathbed that he really just wanted to be like an anonymous person and work a 9 to 5 job? Like, what if that's his fantasy?
Or you realize that he wanted to spend more time with his kid and he could have stopped after, you know, PayPal. Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, like literally, like any number of things, right? Like you're right, yeah. And I think that's the that's the scary part too. Is I think you have to know what you want. You have to know, and that's hard
Yeah.
because that's how it's the only way to live without like that regret, right? And later on.
Yeah. I remember it was in high school. I think there was like a poetry professor. His last name was Moran.
Moran. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Moran.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally. Yeah, I
And so
remember
there
that
was a
area now.
girl who was in his class who was always talking about the golden mean. And to me, I was just, or maybe she called it the golden median. I don't remember. But whenever she said it, I was just thinking about a median in the middle of a road and just being gold. So I didn't really get it, but
Why
like
not?
it's so funny because that literally is the answer to a lot of things, just trying to find that area, that golden mean.
Yeah,
Like there
in
was
the
a
middle, right?
yeah, there was a video that I saw where somebody had a tattoo that said like money dies in the end. And he tattooed that on himself because he had a whole bunch of friends who like made a lot of money, saved up a whole bunch of money, and then died. And he's like, when you die, you don't get to take it with you. Like, even if
Yeah,
you have a whole bunch of money, if you don't use it while you're alive, you lose it. So he's like, the key then is, using your money smartly, but also keeping it smartly. So like, you don't want to spend too much to where you go broke, but you also don't want to spend nothing to where you save up a ton of money and don't get to actually enjoy it. And for me, like that is a big struggle because I'm always trying to save up more money so then I won't have to work later on and all these
yeah.
things. But like I do that at the expense of enjoying the money right now. So trying to find that golden mean.
The balance is crucial. I think the correct path seems to always be the compromise in the middle.
And yeah, and the damnedest part of it is that like one of uh the key parts of that equation that you need to figure out the golden mean is when you're gonna die. And that you'll never know. Like if I knew when I was going to die, I could calculate to the day exactly how much money I could spend. But the problem
Yeah,
is
yeah.
I never know when I'm gonna die. So it's just like,
It,
meh,
it's a bitch, isn't it? The unknown's very
yeah.
difficult. It causes a lot of problems. It's a good point though, because I think a lot of people do that too. They really and that's worrying so much about the future too, I think. But it's also worrying as if like you're not gonna, it's also like as if you're not gonna keep earning money too or something, or
Mhm.
like it's good to be safe and it's good to
Oh
have money,
yeah.
but like you should also enjoy it, right? Otherwise,
Dude, I've
it's
worked
hard
for
to.
myself for a number of years and it's so gut wrenching sometimes because you can have like such ebbs and flows in terms of income coming in. Like sometimes there's a ton and sometimes there's none, and it's just like, yeah, you never know.
Yeah, there's not, you don't get that consistency over
Hmm.
time. Yeah, that's true. It's funny. Like I know, like it, I think one of the hard things too with this is like the choices we make. We talk about every time you make a choice, right? You're making a choice not to do something else, and I think that also causes a lot of struggle too, because it's like you know, we want these things, so we keep thinking like I got to choose that because then I'll get it faster, I'll get it now, and at the same time we end up ignoring things that would either be beneficial, make us happy, whatever. And then I think it also can be isolating, or it can also make us feel sorry for ourselves, make us upset because we kind of feel like we're like not getting there fast enough and we're putting all this time in. You know what I mean? Like that makes sense.
Mhm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And not only what you're missing out on by making your choice, but also we don't look at like what are the downsides of our choice? You know,
Yeah.
what's that shit sandwich we got to eat every day? That
Yeah.
oh my goodness, yeah. Like I remember when I was going to be a veterinarian. I loved animals as a kid. I loved playing with animals, and my parents we never had any pets as a kid. So like anytime I was over at my friend's house, I was just playing with their dogs and their cats and everything. And so everybody's like, "You love animals, you should be a veterinarian." I didn't realize the
There you
shit
go.
sandwich of being a veterinarian is that you have your finger up a dog's ass half the day and you're killing them the rest of the day with euthanasia. Like I didn't realize that's the shit sandwich. And had I have known that, probably wouldn't have chosen a profession.
And you're dealing with the people who are associated with them and all the emotions and stuff, which is
Yeah,
hard. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not an easy job.
Hmm.
That's the other worst part too, is that that's funny. I always found that funny that we pick a job or a potential career without having any experience doing it. And it's
Hmm.
like, and people are like, well, pick what you love. And it's like, well, yeah, you might like something. It doesn't mean the job's going to be good though, because some jobs like are in that area. It doesn't mean you're going to do that or get to do what you like about it. Like, what do you like about it? Because
That's
maybe
that's a great point.
it's
Like
hard.
especially with people living as long as they do, college shouldn't be
Yeah,
until you're like 20 to 30. Like you go to high school,
yeah,
graduate when you're 18. Then you work from when you're 18 till 30. And then after you have 12 years of working experience, where you can just dick around every year for 12 years, making barely enough money to scrape by, but you just get a whole bunch of experience in different fields. Then you know what?
yeah,
You're like, you know what? This I kind of enjoyed. That I was really good at. That I was terrible at. Maybe I'll just go for that. And then you have life experience that you could draw upon to actually go to college if you even need it, because most
yeah.
people don't need college at all.
Not to mention too, like also like I think you just know yourself. You just know yourself more too. It's not like, yeah, it's dude, they were just talking about like I was just looking at something comparing the cost of college in the past to like it was like I think it was like in the 70s to now and like the relative like value of it and how long you would have to like how many hours it would require to pay back. And like it just ballooned.
It's
Like it's
gangbusters.
ridiculous.
It's
Yeah,
gangbusters.
yeah.
Dude, and they're going like
It's insane.
I see these commercials for Southern New Hampshire University, and they're just going after the long tail of people because like literally they know that every I mean, this is gonna sound so they know that the majorities have already gone to college. So now they're just chasing every minority to get them to go to college so that they can collect more money. And it's not
Yeah,
that they actually
yeah.
need a degree. Yeah.
Well, that's the funny part too, dude. They get to the point too where they're like handing them out, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, what
As
value
long
does
as you
this
pay.
have?
Dude,
Yeah,
I mean, this happened this we were talking about this not
yeah,
long ago. Like I just started a master's program 6 months ago, and I was like I one of the first projects I ended up failing it just because I didn't have as much experience as everyone else in the program. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm literally going to fail out of this program." And you're like, "Dude, if you got accepted to a master's program, they're going to give you the
oh god.
degree." Like that's just what it is.
Dude, the only way you leave a master's program is by choice. I swear to God, like,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. So that's pretty much, I mean, I'm sure it's the same as undergrad too. But yeah, that was
oh god, undergrad, I would say is even worse. Yeah, it's like there's that impulse that like it's just funny, like to get everybody through and on, like you know, it's just I don't know, it's
what
weird.
for.
Yeah, but is it worth it? Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, so now that we've gone
That's just,
completely off course,
we have very we've
what were
digressed
we
a lot.
talking about today?
What the hell are we talking about? How not to feel? Yeah,
How
right.
to
How to
not
not feel
feel,
sorry.
yeah, how to not feel sorry for yourself. I think an important part is being grateful, but it's really, really hard to be grateful in those moments.
Yeah. Yes, it
Mhm.
is.
I think also having a routine is important because definitely when I was, it's so tricky how like having a routine is beneficial and then how quickly going off the routine can be bad. Because I
Yeah.
literally like I have a morning routine that I think serves me very, very well. But I had gone off the routine for like maybe about a week. Not fully off of it, but just like little things. You know? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it every day, or maybe I wouldn't do the full thing every day. And maybe I was having more coffee than I would usually have. And like all these and maybe I wasn't getting the amount of sleep that I would normally have. And maybe I was drinking a little bit more alcohol than I normally have. But all these things when they combine, it just made like
Yeah.
explosion.
Just destroys it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't know. I think gratitude's good. I do think like just being more realistic is important too, and like not trying to being more realistic about like really what we have, what we want, what's wrong. I think too, because we tend to blow things out of proportion. It's all like imagination. Like half the time, ask yourself, is this like a real thing I'm really worried about, or is it like just just like a phantom? Because I think a lot of them are like that's what it is. It's like this abstract fear of failure, kind of manifesting as like there's a problem I won't be able to overcome later, or like I'm not going to be good enough for something.
Yeah. Dude, it was like this crazy feeling of like cognitive dissonance. Because on the one hand, I'm feeling sorry for myself, but then when I actually look at it, I'm like, I'm doing exactly the stuff. Like literally, if I could have my dream life, I wouldn't change a thing. And like all of even though it's not all complete right now and it's not all working out how I wanted to be, it's like literally, yeah, it was just really interesting to be
Yeah,
in that spot.
that's the other thing too. I think it's helped me a lot too, is to stop thinking about like in terms of like completeness. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
because like our life's not over yet. It'll be complete when it's done, you know,
mm,
but like in the process of living, I think, we're constantly just building on things. It's not like it never stops, you know. I don't think
mm.
that's not gonna be a point where you're just like, I got okay, it's good. Freeze frame it here, you
Okay,
know, like
done.
yeah, done. I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, I think so. I think that's part of it too. Is like it's we have these ideas about how things should be that really just aren't, they're not compatible with the world. And then I think a big thing too is like taking time away from, you know, letting the technology go for a little bit sometimes, taking a walk and stuff, getting away from like all the noise and also all the reminders of like the BS in the world that like I mean, because a lot of it is meant to force you to compare. And that's the whole point. Like social media is all just comparisons. That's all it
Hmm.
is. It's just I'm doing better than you. Look at it's like
Hmm.
constant. And I think that's yeah, it's also bad.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's all I got.
All right, well we'll call it here then. Well, hopefully, yeah, I don't know. Sorry, maybe you still feel sorry for yourself. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, just stick
Yeah,
with it. You'll be okay. It won't last
everything will
forever.
be okay.
Yeah, it won't last
Nothing
forever.
does.
It'll leave eventually. And it may take a little while. You may um I think trying to make it go away probably won't help that much. Just get back to
No.
doing what you want to do. Get some time outside, go for a few walks. Oh, dude, it also felt like time stood still. Like when I felt sorry,
Yeah.
I literally was watching the seconds tick by. It was like time stood
Isn't it weird
still.
how like time will just like, dude, I that is one of the most fascinating things to me. How like hours can pass by in seconds and seconds can pass by in hours. I find that so fascinating. It's so weird. And
Hmm.
it's always like the reverse of how you would want it to be.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Which
Yeah,
is funny.
yeah. But
Anyway,
get
all
outside,
right.
go for a walk in nature.
Yeah, and don't stress too much. It'll be all right.
Hmm.
We'll get
Or
there.
stress as much as you need to.
Yeah, that's also good. Don't do no stress, but some stress.
Or a lot of stress.
Whatever works for you. Yeah. You got anything else in there?
No,
Throwing
that's
there?
all. Signing
All
off.
right. Anyway, well, we'll be back later with a quick fix. Thanks for staying with us, listening. If you have to here, please like, subscribe, share. It helps us out a lot. Check us out on YouTube, all the podcast apps. We'll be back later this week. Until then, though, peace, Randy.
Later, Danny.